TCU, did they right the ship? Did they just get a victory against a bad Kansas team? I don't know, but a win is a win. Huge win on the road against Kansas and Arrowhead. We'll talk about it next year on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Can you guys hear me okay? I was having issues with my mic before the show, so just let me know if you can hear me. We're here. We're rolling. TCU gets a victory over Kansas. 38-27 was the final score. Here's what I'll say first. We talked a lot of negative. There was a lot of negative talk around this program this week. Okay. Rightly so. I'm not saying anybody was wrong for questioning Sonny Dykes, for questioning the players. That SMU game was rough. This was a gut check win. I don't think Kansas is very good. They're 1-4. They've lost 3 games by 1 score. They lost today by 2 scores, but as all of you watched, it was a close ball game throughout. And at a certain point, you are what your record says you are. They didn't make the plays they needed to make to win. But that being said, with everything that has happened since halftime of UCF, this was a big win. And I'll credit the coaching staff. I'll give credit to the players. It wasn't always pretty. They turned the ball over 3 times. They missed a field goal. Josh Hoover's got to be better. I mean, he threw 2 picks today. One of them appeared to be on like a miscommunication. I don't know if he thought Savion Williams was running a different route, and he just threw it up the field anyway. The other one, he just put too much air on the ball. He had JPR open but couldn't hit him. But anyway, those were bad mistakes. But he made plays when he needed to make them. And, you know, the missed field goal was an issue. But when it came down to, you know, winning time, J.P. Richardson, punt return for a touchdown. And DB Production says, I wasn't talking about the team they played. I was referring to the way they fought. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. My big takeaway from this ball game, this group has not quit. I don't know what's going to happen over the next few weeks. I think obviously they have a good chance to beat Houston next week at home. And then you get a bye week and you play Utah and the schedule really ramps up. But you're right, man. Like, they played hard tonight in the face of some adversity and after a really rough stretch of football, and that's to be commended. But going back to the big plays, J.P. Richardson takes a punt return for a touchdown, 89 yards. When they're down 24-21, Kyle Limmerman had just missed a field goal. Defense they come up with a stop. He takes it to the house. The defense gets another stop. They at least hold Kansas to a field goal in the ensuing possession. Josh Hoover avoids a sack, throws it to Eric McAllister on the sideline. He sheds a tackler, takes it to the house. Those were big-time plays. That flipped the ball game. It gave them a 35-27 lead. Defense comes up huge again. The first 2 drives of this ball game, this TCU defense looked awful. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat it. That first drive after the Cam Cook fumble, 4 plays, I think it was 54 yards. They just did what they wanted. Next drive, again, they just did what they wanted. I don't know if anybody has a link where I can donate directly to Jeff Grimes, the Kansas play caller, for every time he decided not to run the ball today, I would gladly do that because I think, you know, Sonny said in his press conference this week, he said, I thought they were going to run the ball 70 to 75% of the time. Well, they didn't do that today. And Jalen Daniels looks like he has issues when he drops back and he throws. But after those first couple drives, this defense stepped up in a big way. They were able to get a couple stops, you know, on the next few possessions. And then, again, some of those big moment plays. Josh Hoover throws a pick, and Kansas gets the ball down at the 9-yard line, right? And it's like, oh, man, here we go. Tie ball game. You know, things are going good. You just gift wrap Kansas a chance to score. And they held them to a field goal. Like, 1st and goal at the 9, that defense stepped up. They got a stop. They forced a field goal, and then the offense was able to go score before halftime to take a 21-17 lead into the locker room. After TCU went down and scored to make it 35-27, defense comes up with a big stop. Cooper McDonald gets, not technically a sack, but he gets out there and makes a tackle on Jalen Daniels. He forces him to throw it, intentional grounding. They get another big play on third down and fourth down, and they get the ball, right? When TCU had an 8-point lead, they were able to salt away the clock by running the football. And, okay, let's get to something else that I've seen you guys talk about, and let's talk about it. I think starting next week, Jeremy Payne is your starting running back until he proves that he can't do that. A couple things that I liked from him today, aside from just the explosiveness, which you guys talked about that. He had a few big-time runs, but also he was a good blocker in space. Like, there was a screen pass to J.P. Richardson around halftime, I think, where he was the lead blocker and he was able to get a block out there on the, defender. And then there was it was Haas Haney on 4th and 1. They brought him in to run the football, and he was able to get out there and pancake the defensive back, and it led to a first down. And then Daily Dose of Brad says both his blocks led to scores. Yeah, they did. You're right. Both those drives, they went down there and scored touchdowns. That was another interesting wrinkle. Haas Haney running the ball in some short yard situations, and then they had him in there in the run package. Now, he did step out of bounds on that last drive, which we'll call that a freshman mistake. But, that's interesting. It's pretty obvious they're going to do that. When he's been healthy, the 2 weeks that he's been healthy, against Stanford and now against Kansas, they've used him in that capacity. So I would expect more of that moving forward. And I like the idea. It hasn't led to any big plays. I guess today they got a first down on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 or whatever that was. It hasn't led to any big explosive plays, but there's something there. But going back to Jeremy Payne, I just thought he was really good today. There was a run in the third quarter. I think it was the play before Josh had the ball that was ruled a fumble on the field, and then they reviewed it. It was 2nd and 10. He tried, he got hit as he threw, and they ended up reviewing it and ruling it an incomplete pass. But the play before that, Cam Cook had a run where he was so hesitant, either so hesitant or just not fully engaged. I don't know, but I almost leapt through the television when that happened. And I will say this, to Cam's credit, in the fourth quarter, they came back to him on some of those last drives, and he was effective. Like, he got it done. He got some first downs. I thought overall the offensive line was better, and that's an encouraging sign. This Kansas run defense is pretty good. Payne had 8 carries for 65 yards. He had 8 yards a carry. Cook 15 for 61, about 4 yards a carry. They rushed for 151 yards today, guys. That's a huge improvement. That's not like leading the nation by any means, but that's a big-time improvement from the last couple weeks where they just literally could not run the football. And I didn't think it was Josh's best game, but he hung in there and made plays today. His final stat line, 28 of 37, 356 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. The picks can't happen. And I think that's 4 picks in the last 2 games after no picks through the first 3. So that's becoming an issue. So that's just something to watch. But Josh made some big-time throws today, made some big-time plays. Also, Jack Besh might be the best receiver in the Big 12. Like, Eric McAllister had a big-time game today too. Let me look at these numbers for you. Yeah, McAllister had 4 catches for 100 yards. He had that huge touchdown catch. Besh, 10 catches, 131 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That dude is a monster, and he's just been incredible. Now, how much recognition he gets for it nationally is going to depend on if TCU wins some games, but he was great. And that catch in the end zone, that was also a good throw by somebody said Travis Hunter. Yeah, you're right. Travis Hunter is the best receiver in the Big 12. Okay, I take it back. Thank you, Matthew. But Jack Besh is having a really good season. Okay, he's having a great year. But he had a great contested catch in the end zone to go up 21-17 right before halftime. And it was a good throw by Josh Hoover, too. He threaded the needle. But there were 2 defenders converging on him. He snagged it, got in the end zone. That was fun to see. DB Productions asked if we have a fullback. No, not really. Dominic Johnson, who is sort of their change of pace back, would be the closest thing they have to a fullback. They'll put him in some short yardage situations, but they don't have a traditional fullback. And funny enough, like before the season, Jack Besh was kind of their H-back guy too. Richard talked about Eric McAllister. Yeah, he was great today. I mean, I said it in the earlier part of the show. That catch and run to go up 8 points, that was huge, man. So I'm feeling a million times better. Like, listen, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Everything has not been fixed, right? This is still a team that has some issues. It's going to have to overcome some things to get it done. But why don't we do this? Because some of you are mentioning some good things. We'll take a quick ad read break. And then when we come back, I want to talk about some guys that got some more run today, that it was good to see them out there, and I would give them more opportunities because they got the job done the big way. We'll talk about that here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I do want to quickly mention our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. If you own a small business or you are in charge of hiring, you need to use LinkedIn Jobs. 86% of small businesses find a qualified candidate within 24 hours. And 70% of people that are looking for work on LinkedIn, they're not looking anywhere else. So you get the best of the best. And then they have screening questions and other tools that allow you to pare that down so that, you're not going through a million different resumes. LinkedIn Jobs, outstanding place. Go to linkedinjobs.com/locked on, and post your job for free there. LinkedIn is the best place to hire. We appreciate their sponsorship of the Locked On Network. Okay, so some guys that I haven't seen a lot so far this year, but that I saw today and I was super encouraged by, and I'm like, all right, we got to find a way to get them on the field more moving forward. First, Jeremy Payne, which you've already talked about, but the explosiveness is there. He's shown great ability as a pass catcher. He showed some physicality blocking today. Like, I'm all in on Jeremy Payne being running back one until things change. The only thing I'll say, he is a little bit slight in his build, and part of that's just being a true freshman. But I'm not sure if he can carry the ball like 20 times a game, but I would put him out there on the first series and he'd be my primary back at the moment. John Martin mentioned 33, talking about Max Carroll. Max Carroll, was out there at linebacker, and I liked what I saw from him. He was flowing to the football fast. He was physical. He was a breath of fresh air at that position. I'll also say a guy that honestly I forgot about. He transferred in before the 2022 season, and it was kind of a big deal at the time because he came over from Texas. He had an injury, sat out 2022. I think he dealt with injuries last year, or he was just buried on the depth chart. Honestly, I can't remember. But Terrence Cooks, number 12, was out there making some plays. And I saw number 12 out there, and I was like, wait, who's that? And then I saw Cooks, and I was like, oh, that's Terrence Cooks. Awesome. Good to see him, making some things happen. So at linebacker, I like both those guys. John also talked about the corners. And yes, I thought Channing Canada played well. When he got opportunities, I felt like, oh gosh, I just blanked on the name. Canada played well. Lamarian James has been getting a lot of playing time, so that's not a huge update. But he had that one-handed interception to seal the ball game. I thought he played well when he got opportunities. So maybe Canada should get some more chances. Now, I will say there have been some other games where he's had opportunities and he hasn't played super well, but I thought he did a good job when he was called upon today. Matthew wants to know any update on DB injuries like Helm. There is nothing official. From everything I have heard, I don't expect Avery Helm to play again this year. I think it's a season-ending injury. And from everything I've heard on Vernon Glover, it's the same. That's just kind of what I know. But no official announcement from TCU. So I guess we'll see what happens. There are a few other guys, and I'm not putting Helm and Glover in this category. Like, they were obviously injured in camp, and it was bad knee injuries. I don't know what to tell you about Paul Olawale. He wasn't on the field again today. He's been in practice some, but he's not available. I don't know what to tell you about Dalen Wright. Yeah, I don't know what to say about those guys. They're not playing. They're suited up, it seems, but they're not playing football. And I mean, if you're injured, you're injured. I just think I think it's weird that they've been in practice and been participating, but they haven't played. Richard Berry says, I think the DBs got bailed out by the bad QB play of Daniels. Wasn't super excited about it. I mean, yeah, like Jalen's struggling. He was super uncomfortable throwing the ball. And like I said earlier, play calling's tough, but I don't really understand why Jeff Grimes didn't run the ball more. And I know Kansas, even going back to Andy Kolenecki, who's their old OC that's now at Penn State, they love to do a lot of things with exotic motion and scheme guys open. But there were a lot of instances today where they were having receivers like Grimm run 200 yards in a circle behind the line of scrimmage before the play call. And I'm just like, all you got to do until this defense proves otherwise, all you got to do is run the ball. But they didn't do it. And you know what? Sometimes you get bailed out by that. I'm not saying you don't need to fix it, but that's a real thing. Now, speaking of the defensive line, Marcus Deal was outstanding today. He had a pass breakup. He had some tackles. He got great push, and he looked good. So I'm all on the Marcus Deal train. And his brother Devin, has made some big plays for TCU as well. But as far as the interior defensive line goes, you need more push there. He was fantastic. The pass rush, it didn't get home a ton. Let me see if they have the sacks here on the – yeah, only one sack officially. Now, they had a sack that was waved off because of a holding call on JT Broughton. And then Cooper McDonald had that. Basically, it was a sack. I mean, he took down Daniels in the open field and forced him to throw the ball and got intentional grounding. But that being said, I thought overall the pressure was better. And so that was encouraging to see. And Kansas's offensive line has been pretty solid this year. So it's not like that was some horrible unit they were going against. They just won some of those one-on-one battles. And also, when you're able to stop the run better, I mean, they gave up 167 yards rushing. Devin Neal had 70 yards. Daniel Henshaw had 85 yards. But they did a good job overall getting it done. Barry said, I wasn't in a place where I could pay close attention to the starting offensive line was the same five. Yeah, it was, as far as I could tell. And I thought they did better today. And from what I could tell, they didn't really do as much switching out today. It was those five guys throughout. And I thought they answered the bell for the most part. And one thing that they've done, they haven't been consistent with it. And I don't know, maybe it's the type of play that you can't just run a lot. But they had that delayed counter play with Payne. I don't remember in the exact moment. It was the second half. Maybe it was that drive after they took the 8-point lead and got a stop. But they had that delayed counter play with Payne that looked really good. And they've had some success doing that this year. They just haven't been able to do it consistently. And I don't think that you can make that the base of your offense, but it was intriguing to see. So, yeah, I mean, good vibes all around, man. Those were some of the guys. If you want to chime in with more players that haven't gotten a lot of playing time and look good, feel free to. But those are some of the dudes that stood out to me today. I'll also say, and I talked about him earlier, but Eric McAllister was great. And he's gotten playing time. It's gotten ramped up as the season's gone on. But that was the type of performance that I don't know if you expect 100 yards every week, but that was the type of impact that you were expecting when he came over from Boise State. And, man, Savion had 4 catches for 47 yards. They find a way to give him the ball in some short yardage situation. I mean, in the intermediate passing game every week. I don't know. I haven't been blown away. I hope he can step up and make some things happen. I haven't been blown away so far, but I like Savion a lot, and I like what he's doing. DB Production says, I think they have schemes with Haney and everything got moved around. We haven't won since he got hurt. Yeah, I guess you're right. Aside from the LIU win, which, I mean, you expect to be an FCS opponent. Now, the only thing I'll say to that is they haven't used him a ton in the run game, but maybe you're right. Maybe he was supposed to be a big part of this run game, and they just haven't had the opportunity to put him in there, and now they do. But, yeah, this was a big-time victory, man. And we'll wrap up here in a minute with just some thoughts about getting it done today against a Kansas team that, listen, I know they're 1-4, but I'll take any kind of win right now. even if it was by 1 point, as our football godfather Gary Patterson used to say, just win by 1. They won by 11 today, and they're suddenly 3-2, and they get Houston on Friday night. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. All right, shout out to our friends at FanDuel, FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. If you make one $5 bet, you will get $200 in bonus bets. One $5 bet gets you $200 in bonus bets. It's a great deal. NFL going on right now, college football, obviously, and then also Major League Baseball. If you would have bet on TCU to win today, they were Kansas was 1.5 point favorite. So if you picked them straight up to cover or win, you would have won some money today, and you also would have gotten $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app, they're the official betting partner of the NFL. Okay, so we'll close with this. I said this at the start. This was a gut check victory, and I have been really tough on Sonny the last week. And listen, I'm not going to get over my skis here. Nobody needs to get an extension or anything. Like we don't need to drop new contracts. There's still a lot of football to be played. You got to sustain it now. You got to go win on Friday against Houston, and then you have to build on that. That being said, they did the job this week in the face of a lot of adversity, self-inflicted adversity. It wasn't like it was just out of nowhere. They brought it on themselves. They looked completely unprepared and lost against SMU. I was frustrated with the start of the game today, honestly. Now if Cam Cook doesn't fumble on that first drive, maybe they go down and score, and maybe it's different. But that turnover, and then consequently, Kansas just going right down the field and scoring. But eventually they settled in. I mean, once it was 14-7, they got a few stops, or 14-14, they got a few stops. The offense started humming. There's just, and maybe this will come as the year goes on. They're still not really, they played better complementary football today. And I think the JPR punt return kind of saved their bacon this afternoon, because the offense was sort of sputtering. They were moving the ball, but Josh had that interception. Kendall called a good game today, so I hate to be like, I hate to call him out. The 3rd and 10 draw play was rough, man. And I don't know, another one that I was scratching my head about was the fake jet sweep to JPR and then the little shovel pass to Cam Cook. But JPR takes that punt return to the house, and then that changed the whole ball game. And DB put it well. It's the composure, right? Like, it's okay. Everything's been going against you the last couple of weeks. You're on the road. I know it was technically a neutral site game, but it was a road game. It was at Arrowhead. You're on the road. Things are going against you. You have a chance to lose 3 in a row, and you go get it done. That's awesome. Like, that's a big win. Dylan Holcomb says Kendall's a good OC. People got to realize he's just bad in certain situations. Yeah, I mean, I think you did a great job today overall. And you know what? Like, we can go to every play caller in the country and probably find a few wacky plays. I think he gets a little too creative sometimes, but I thought he called a good game today. So I'm not going to waste my time like complaining about it. It was just those 2 plays were very funny. Anyway, you go on the road and get a win. That's huge, man. And now you kind of get to reset your whole season in some ways. You can't change what happened. You were awful against SMU. The second half against UCF was bad. You got to wear that. It is what it is. But you know what? You found a few things today. You found a little bit of a run game. You played better on defense. Those are huge things that you can build on. So I like it. Get the win, get the heck out of Dodge, and go get a victory against Houston on Friday. We'll be back on Monday. Thank you guys for hanging out here on the postgame show. I love all of you. Thank you for supporting the show and supporting me. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever it is you get your podcast. Go hug your family. Frogs win. Hallelujah.